Daddy. Oh yeah. What's a good girl? What's a good girl? Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to a Covert Narcissist's world. I left you guys in May 1st, 2022. So at this point, John has moved into his own place. It was kind of a miracle that I found this place for him within a couple of days. It was very fast, which is very rare where we live. It was also really lucky that the place we found for him didn't require anything. No application, no references, no background check, no lease, nothing. So he got to move into this place. This is this older fellow who, owned his home and was renting out a couple of the rooms. So John was renting one room, and it happened to be probably the best room in the house. I don't know how he ended up with it, but this is this guy. Like, I'm telling you, like, he always ends up with sort of like the best of the situation. Never really lasts long, and things get ruined, but man, like, he does well under certain circumstances. So left you guys off there. It's early May. He's moved into this place that I found for him. Lucky Doc doesn't have to do any paperwork to get in here, no lease, blah, blah, blah. Because he's not exactly the kind of guy that would pass most applications for apartments and stuff like that. So I told you guys that I had to take a trip to Texas, and I was going to be gone for a couple of days. So that's where I left you, and that's what I have to talk about next. This first bit of time apart, a couple of days, and then the big discard that followed that. For some reason, I'm having a hard time getting into this one, getting started with this chapter. I'm not sure why. I think I'm just gonna read something today from my notes, and then I'll get back on board with the first discard. Maybe I don't feel like digging it up because it was the first discard. And you can imagine. There's like one part I keep replaying already. These are my notes. Just kind of notes that I would take from time to time about my experience with John. These were notes for court. So, notes. Love is the best thing in the world. In fact, I think it's the best part of life. And the love that I felt for John was unique. I had never felt a love like I felt for him, for another being before. And that meant something to me. But John took my love and stomped on it, and he threw it in my face. And he used it to ridicule and humiliate me. He used it to abuse me. And maybe that's because the only love that John knows in his life has been love filled with trauma and abuse, neglect, and whatever else. But we've all had traumas in our lives, some worse than others. And most of us know what it takes to rise above them and what it takes to heal. And if you're not willing to take a look at yourself and peel back the layers of the onion, of you and close your wounds to the world for a bit and work on healing from the inside out to be a better version of yourself. If you're not willing to do that, you live a life of suffering. And one of the coping mechanisms that comes along with that is the need to control. You need to control your environment, your circumstances, the way people see you, and even your own perception of the world. A need to control others and a need to judge in the situation or relationship with someone like John. The person he needs to control the most is the person closest to him at any given moment, and especially a romantic partner. And this is because John doesn't view love the same way that you or I do. He has a skewed version of it, a tormented version of it living within himself. And he's got a lot of rules for other people, but not a lot of rules for himself. For John, being in this state and having this skewed view of the world and of love means he's got all of these control mechanisms in place, many of them working on the subconscious level. I mean, so much of what we're talking about is operating at the subconscious level. But that's no excuse, and that doesn't mean that one cannot become aware of it. All of the things about ourselves that we change are generally things operating on the subconscious level. And by becoming aware of these things and wanting to change them, we use that state, that moment, the moments of awareness as opportunities to implement the new thoughts, the new ways of doing things, the change. So, there's no excuse for the subconscious thoughts and behaviors other than you don't really want to take a look at them. And it's very, very hard for folks that are skewed more towards negative narcissistic personality traits to have self-reflective, healthy self-reflective mechanisms in place. So this brings a whole host of other things along with it. So for John, he was really preoccupied with loyalty and honesty and things that sound really good. Like those things sound good. Like what's wrong with that, right? The preoccupation with these things, again, was in a skewed, warped way that doesn't provide any bandwidth for being human. It doesn't allow for the imperfection of humanness, of relationships to come in and be a factor, which means you're never allowed to be yourself. You're never allowed to be human. You're never allowed to be wrong. You're never allowed to make a mistake, etc., etc., etc. Because if and when you do, you'll be punished. This is how somebody comes to tell a lie in a relationship like this, like I myself did, when there would be no need, no desire to even tell that particular lie under any other circumstances. And that is a huge sign right there when you feel so uncomfortable in a relationship that you feel it's safer to tell a lie than to be truthful about something that shouldn't and doesn't matter with a person. How can that person expect you to ever feel safe in the relationship to be a human, to to sit in the imperfection of relationships, to have difficult conversations, to grow together. This person is not capable of that. As intelligent as he or she is, as bright and as successful and as whatever they display that makes you think they are capable, because this person was more capable than many I've seen and met, but all of this stuff is completely blocking his capability, his ability of realizing and standing in that space, which is so hard to see and accept on the other side of the fence, because you're just sitting there going, but it's so easy, just do this and think this way. And of course, self-change and change is never truly easy, but it's also not that hard. And you just are begging for this person to have that self-reflective capability, and you see things that show you that they are intelligent enough and they should be able to, but unfortunately, like, those things don't equal. Like, it's like, you know, you're rationalizing that this because of this, we should see this, and it's just not adding up. It'll never add up. And that's what's so confusing about, I think, you know, living with and having relationships with folks with personality disorders. And that doesn't have to be a narcissistic personality disorder, because there are lots of overlapping similarities as well in personality disorders. And personality disorders are really hard to diagnose. And of course, they're going to present differently in each person to a degree, because we are so individualistic as well. Yeah, so John was truly, truly frightened of the imperfection of relationships, which aren't we all to a degree, but we embrace that and we step forward into it anyway. And most of us generally, you know, go on faith and good feelings that things are going to work out, and we have trust in each other. But when you're set up from childhood to not have those things and to not be able to trust in those things, more than likely your romantic relationships are just doomed. The whole relationship basically ends up being a lie when you look at it from this angle. Because the person that you're with and the person that I was with was not representative of who they actually are. John was not representative of who he actually is. He was playing a mirrored character from the get-go to suck me in. Again, whether he was aware of it or not. But he did say to his best friends, our roommate, my roommate, she's so easy to play. I think most of us know the term gaslighting kind of comes with the territory of abuse and narcissistic personality disorder, whether it's overt or covert. And gaslighting is a form of lies. So while they're pointing the finger at you that you're the liar, gaslighting is a form of lies that abusers use. It's a tactic to make you question your own judgment and reality. Oh, and it itself is a form of lying. How do you like that? And within the relationship, I was told all sorts of lies about my competency, lies about me being lovable, about things I did or didn't do, said or didn't say, lies about my character as a person, lies about things being my fault, I was once told by John that nobody would ever love me as much as he did. And he barely loved me at all. That is a form of gaslighting. And that is a lie. That is a lie about me being lovable. And that is a manipulation tactic to try and isolate me emotionally. Yeah. So even when you know that the abuser's not telling the truth, it can be very convincing. And you'll end up second guessing yourself, which happens to me all of the time, about everything that's going on around you. And start second guessing yourself about what's true. This in and of itself is manipulation. I've been called a liar many times by John. And if you watch my video on lying, most people tend to lie from time to time, and not in an insidious, evil way. So it's very hard to be with and work with, conversate with somebody who sees things as so black and white. Yes, we could say lying is good or bad and that you should or shouldn't do it. But like everything else, including narcissism, it's on a spectrum, right? I mean, we are human beings living in an imperfect world, in imperfect bodies and minds and imperfect relationships. The love itself may be perfect in your heart, but there is a lot of imperfection in the human experience that we all live with. And cutting yourself off from the gray zones is a really dangerous way of living in this human experience. It's hard enough avoiding perfectionist thinking without any of the abuse and things and negative things that we're talking about here. But likewise, somebody who is unable to see the gray and has everything so black and white and not on a spectrum is, in a sense, looking at things from a perfectionist standpoint. And in this case, basically forcing the victim to live a life from that perfectionist viewpoint of the abusers. And it doesn't work. In what circumstance would that work? Nothing about that works. Nothing. I mean, in relationships, whether they're romantic or otherwise, one of the most important ingredients to a successful relationship and what actually fosters things like honesty is being able to trust that you can be vulnerable with that other person without them retaliating against you, without them using it against you, without them judging you, without them blaming you. Because if we cannot be vulnerable with each other as human beings, we cannot get to the crux of anything. We cannot grow together. We cannot heal together. We cannot truly celebrate in love and joy together. We cannot share in each other's challenges and sadnesses together. So how can you have a real relationship with somebody, a real emotional relationship with somebody, if they are not able to hold the space for you, and likewise you for them, to be vulnerable with each other? I mean, this is the person that you should be able to be your most vulnerable self with, besides yourself, or maybe a parent, or a practitioner whom you feel really safe working with. This is the person that you have decided to, give your heart to and share your most intimate spaces with. And that's what also in my book makes abuse so damaging, is because this is not with a stranger. This is with somebody that you're trusting yourself with. And yet this other person, this person who's the abuser, is the one over there screaming and yelling that they're hurt, that they can't trust. They don't see how wrapped up they are in their own warped, twisted reality. And that they can, and that it's a game. I mean, I've even pointed out to John before that he is playing some warped game. And he's like, I'm not playing a game. I'm not playing games. You're basically living your life as a game, as a chess game. I mean, that's how you see relationships. All right, 26 minutes in. I'm gonna pause right there. I'm having like a tired week. All right, guys, bye.